Thanks for coming on, Andrew. This is death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it?
Yeah, and the more it drags on, the more it's unhelpful for Scott Morrison. But as he points out, he's got to wait for that report unless she falls on her sword first. And it's interesting, some people in government are sort of saying to me, maybe she should get out ahead of the report because it looks like it's going in one direction. And people are also making the point to me tonight that it's much better to resign than be sacked. In terms of your future, you know, you look at Susan Lee, she ended up back in the cabinet because she resigned. You don't resign, you cause problems for the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, and, you know, you've got no future. So we await the report. I mean, the Prime Minister was pretty strong in his language today, I thought. He said he'd wait for the report and take whatever action is necessary. They were his words.
Yeah, look, he had plenty of opportunities to sort of jump in and really strongly defend her, as perhaps he and others have been doing for a number of days. But I think it's a lack of clear air for the PM. He's had a difficult summer. He was just starting to come out of that summer. He's been king hit with this issue day in, day out. Next week, as I said, big speech to the National Press Club. It's where he'll outline his agenda for the year, and then obviously Parliament returns. I 100% back what you say there about resigning as opposed to being sacked. Very much easier, having sat around ministerial offices and done these sorts of jobs before, to rehabilitate someone who has resigned than it is to bring back someone, you the individual, in this case it would be the PM, is had to sack. If the PM has to sack her, then it's the PM's judgment that has to turn around, and he then has to rationalise why it's turned around, should she ever come back. So, you know, my advice to her and her camp tonight would be go before you're shot at dawn, but that's where it's headed.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the dilemma with the Nationals. He was actually asked about that, the PM, at the press conference, you know, can you sack a National? Haven't you got a bit of a problem there? And I thought it was interesting he kind of made the point that the Deputy PM's been with him in the process all the way along. So he first refers it to his secretary, Phil Gaetjens, PM&C secretary, last Friday, tells McCormack. Then I think what sort of turned it around for the PM is all the information I'm hearing, Peter, is this gun club revelation. She gets the honorary membership, she turns around and gives them $35K and, as you say, doesn't recuse herself. And that's when the Prime Minister then referred that to Gaetjens as well and informed McCormack of that as well. We know of this dinner at the Lodge between Frydenberg, McCormack and him last night, Turkish pizza. Apparently it tasted quite nice. But it's just impossible to believe that this issue wasn't discussed, and all the indications are that she'll be lent on, and there's already been suggestions to her that it's pretty much time to go. But like the PM says, he waits for that report from his secretary.
Yeah, look, and as I said too, and I know the ministerial code inside out, I've got it here on the desk, I refreshed my memory, there's been a couple of changes. This is August 2018's version, the most current version. But clearly, she's inside the rules in the sense that the gun club membership, the quantum amount of it per annum is under $300. She doesn't have to disclose anything under $300. So she may well come out of the investigation by Prime Minister and Cabinet with a clean bill of health. However, the lawyer in me says if you've got an interest in anything, and this is the gun club, whether it's $1 membership or not, if you've got an interest in anything, you should not be in the room when the decision's being made. I think that's the difficulty for her. And the political reality, the brutal political reality is, just like Bronwyn Bishop, who was technically inside the rules as Speaker, when you've lost out in the pub test, you've lost out.
Yeah, and like I say, the people I've been talking to, the language completely changed after that gun club thing. There was a feeling that it could be ridden out, provided there weren't more revelations, and then there was. And, you know, from everything I hear, the PM's just kind of had enough. But he sort of needs a trigger is what he's indicating. So it's almost all down to Phil Gaetjens and what finds, I think. But problem is then you have a situation where if she's technically okay with the Gaetjens report, what if something else comes out? And either way, the government continues to bleed and she continues to bleed. And as you rightly point out, the Nats are already manoeuvring, you know. There's already people pushing Littleproud and people pushing Chester. And
yeah, now I was going to move to that.
Okay.
That's where I felt the noose was absolutely around her neck this afternoon when names started to emerge of who will take her place. Once they start talking about your successor, you might as well pack up and go home. And the interesting thing with those two names, I made the point at the start of the show, David Littleproud, Darren Chester, both of them are in the lower house. See, McKenzie's in the Senate. She's no real threat to McCormack. Even though these are friendly men, no one's really friendly when they're the deputy to you and you're the leader. Will McCormack be watching his back?
Oh, it has to be, I think, but I think it's status quo for him. I think he's been watching his back for a few months, and you know, one thing that he's got on his side there is they really don't like the look of rolling a Nationals leader. Hasn't happened before. They don't like to do it. So, you know, he's pretty safe from that point of view, but you get a new deputy in there, they have a chance to prove themselves. What Little Proud supporters are hoping is that Chester wouldn't end up running for it and that he just use it as some leverage to get into cabinet and Little Proud to get a clear run. That's kind of the messages I'm getting tonight.
Yeah, a lot of people have been critical of David Littleproud, particularly people in National Party electorates in and around the Murray-Darling Basin area, New South Wales, and we saw that movement last March in the New South Wales state election with independents against the Nationals. Is there any talk of Barnaby Joyce coming back somehow to spoil?
Not that I've heard. I mean, pretty reasonable question, isn't it? But there's just a bit of a feeling that he's got some more time to serve out. I mean, yeah, the only discussion I've heard is that Barnaby would want to come back to cabinet. But I can't see McCormack being too keen on that, or Morrison even, perhaps.
Okay. And there's also, you know, a big push today by Anthony Albanese. We might have a grab. I'll see if we've got that for people. He had a press conference. I think as soon as he saw you get to your feet and say that McKenzie's likely to go, he came out and I think he called it rotting prawn heads on a hot day, this stinking up to high heaven. But of course, there were plenty of announcements all the way through the election campaign and since from Labor MPs, very happy to spend this money allocated by Bridget McKenzie, but at the same time now condemn her. So this is sort of the hypocrisy that people hate.
Well, Labor obviously would want McKenzie to stay there till Parliament, that's for sure, because they'd feel they have more of a target. So what he's setting up there is he's trying to spread the blame a bit more, go more into the Prime Ministerial office. That's what they'll try if McKenzie goes. And that's his best tactic. I mean, the Labor fear would be that the thing dies down once McKenzie goes.
And where do you think, in the PM's speech next week, I touched on this loosely with him the other night, but both he sets out an agenda in this speech and we expect to see something too from the opposition leader. Where do you think the PM's going to go to really kick off the year and sort of build back now some political capital?
Well, he told you the other night, didn't he? And, you know, he mentioned skills and he's always mentioning the economy. There's a bit of a feeling, because it was, you know, a surprise election victory, that there was a bit of, you know, such a great effort to win, almost against Bill Shorten's policies. What next? And that's the challenge for Morrison is what's next. He's recovered on the fire thing. You know, he's had a good recovery there in terms of getting the troops on the ground and he's pushed hard into the recovery. Yes, but he needs to work hard on that agenda. I mean, he's got Labor in a pretty good position, really, because all they've been able to campaign on so far is climate change, and they don't even have a set position. Albanese's made, even in an interview with me, made sort of, oh, we can be, you know, the Hawke Keating economic managers, we can go on about economic growth and that sort of thing, but, like, who's going to believe them on that? I mean, if they're trying to campaign on the economy, good luck after all those years of deficits and big deficits. So, you know, he's just going to push those strengths, Morrison, but, yeah, it'd be good to see some bigger picture ideas from him, that's for sure. I hope to see that.
Yeah, we'll watch all of that closely. We'll get some cues from him out of that speech where the budget process is likely to go. They stand down from the Parliament for much of April and they're coming back for a May budget. Very clear messages from Josh Frydenberg that he will deliver that surplus.
Yes.
If anyone's going to do that, Josh, I think, would walk over cut glass to do it. We'll see if that eventuates, but that's where we'll have to leave it tonight. Look, just before we go, at the very end of the PM's press conference today, very sadly, he mentioned he had to leave because of family business. I think we've got a post I can put up there from his Facebook page tonight, but sad news for the Morrison family. His dad has passed away. I know he's particularly close to his dad and his mum, which is what we all hope for. Had a wonderful long marriage, a very happy marriage. So our condolences to the broader Morrison clan tonight.
Definitely.
Andrew Clennell? Sorry?
No, definitely. Very sad news indeed. Such a hard job being PM and you have something like that to deal with at the same time. And he fronted today anyway.
Yeah, and I remember, I know Tony Abbott's dad died. I don't think he was necessarily in office. I think he was in the parliament. We saw the same thing happen with Julia Gillard's father while she was PM. So, yeah, never a good time. Thanks very much for your time, Andrew Clennell.
Thank you.